The chamber fell silent when Ambassador Theron walked through the massive doors. Representatives from 47 different species turned their heads toward the human delegation. Some showed disgust on their faces. Others showed fear. A few showed nothing at all because their biology did not allow for such expressions. The Coalition Council had existed for 6,000 years. They had built empires across 3 galaxies. They had conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations that refused to follow their rules. Now they faced something new, something that made them nervous. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage only 200 years ago. In that short time, they had done what no other species had accomplished. They had built an empire that stretched across 800 star systems. They had developed weapons that made even the oldest races uncomfortable. Most importantly, they had refused to bow. High Chancellor Vexus stood at the center of the circular chamber. His pale blue skin reflected the lights above. His 4 eyes narrowed as he watched the human ambassador take his seat. Behind Theron stood 6 soldiers in black armor. Their faces were hidden behind helmets that showed no emotion. Each one carried a plasma rifle that could burn through a starship hull. "You were summoned here to answer for your crimes," Vexus said. His voice echoed through the chamber. "The human empire has violated 17 coalition treaties. You have expanded into forbidden sectors. You have traded weapons to species under our protection. You have refused to pay tribute to this council." Theron smiled. It was a calm smile, a dangerous smile. The kind of smile that made other species remember why humans were different. "We were not summoned," he said. "We chose to come." "There is a difference, Chancellor." "Perhaps your translators did not explain it properly." Murmurs spread through the chamber. No one spoke to the High Chancellor that way. No one dared to challenge his authority in front of the entire Coalition Council. Vexus raised one of his 4 hands for silence. His anger was visible but controlled. "You test our patience," Vexus said. "The Coalition has voted. Sanctions will be placed on all human trade routes. Your merchant vessels will be seized. Your colonies in the Outer Rim will be blockaded. You will be cut off from the galactic economy until you submit to our demands." The other representatives nodded in agreement. Some of them smiled with satisfaction. The Valkyrie delegation laughed openly. They had been enemies of humanity since the First Contact War. They had lost 3 fleets to human weapons. Now they believed they would finally see the humans brought low. Theron remained calm. He reached into his coat and pulled out a small device. He pressed a button on its surface. A holographic display appeared above the council floor. It showed a map of the galaxy. Blue dots represented Coalition space. Red dots represented human space. The red dots seemed small compared to the vast blue territory of the Coalition. "You see our territory," Theron said. "You believe we are weak because we are small. You believe we can be crushed because we are young. You have made this mistake before. Many species have made this mistake. None of them exist anymore." The chamber fell silent again. The display changed. It now showed fleet positions. Coalition warships were scattered across their territory. They protected trade routes and important worlds. Human warships were different. They were concentrated. Thousands of vessels gathered at key points. Battle groups that could strike anywhere within days. "Our economic minister received your sanctions proposal 3 days ago," Theron continued. "We found it amusing. Your economists calculated that we would starve within 6 months. They believed we depended on your resources. They were wrong." Admiral Chun stepped forward from the human delegation. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had commanded fleets for 50 years. She had destroyed more enemy vessels than any living officer. Her reputation alone made some species surrender without fighting. "The human empire is self-sufficient," Chun said. "We built our infrastructure to survive isolation. We expected your hostility from the beginning. Every colony produces its own food. Every shipyard operates independently. Your sanctions would hurt your own merchants more than our people. Vexus slammed his fist on the podium. Then, we will enforce our demands with military action. The coalition fleet outnumbers yours 10 to 1. You cannot fight all of us. Theron nodded slowly. You are correct about the numbers. Your combined forces are larger than ours. But numbers are not everything, Chancellor. Let me show you something. The display changed again. It showed a recording from deep space. A coalition patrol fleet of 20 warships approached a human research station. The vessels were modern designs. They carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They transmitted demands for the station to surrender. The station did not respond with words. A single beam of light emerged from its surface. It struck the lead coalition cruiser. The ship did not explode. It simply ceased to exist. One moment, it was there. The next moment, there was nothing but atoms floating in space. The remaining 19 ships tried to retreat. They managed to travel 3 light years before more beams found them. The entire fleet was destroyed in less than 4 minutes. That was a test of our new plasma land system, Chun explained. It operates at ranges your sensors cannot detect. It destroys targets before they know they are under attack. Every human capital ship carries this weapon. Every orbital defense platform has been upgraded. Your fleets would not survive long enough to reach our worlds. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted at each other. Some demanded immediate war. Others called for negotiations. The Volcari ambassador turned pale green with fear. His species had seen human weapons before. They knew what humans were capable of creating. Vexus raised his hands for silence. It took several minutes for order to be restored. When he spoke again, his voice was less confident. You would not dare attack coalition territory. The political consequences would unite every species against you. Theron stood from his seat. He walked slowly toward the center of the chamber. His guards followed 3 steps behind. Every eye in the room tracked his movement. We have no desire for war, Theron said. Humans do not seek conflict. We seek trade and cooperation. We seek peaceful coexistence with our neighbors. But we will not be threatened. We will not be bullied. We will not kneel before a council that treats us like children. He stopped directly in front of Vexus. They were only meters apart. The human was shorter than the Chancellor. He had no natural weapons like claws or fangs. His body was soft compared to many species in the room. Yet somehow he seemed more dangerous than any creature present. Here is what will happen, Theron said. You will withdraw your sanctions proposal. You will recognize human sovereignty over all systems we currently control. You will negotiate a new treaty that treats humanity as an equal partner rather than a subject species. In return, we will share some of our technology. We will open trade routes that benefit everyone. We will help defend coalition space from external threats. Vexus laughed bitterly. And if we refuse these terms? The display changed one final time. It showed the Imperial fleet. Thousands of warships hung in formation around a massive command vessel. The flagship alone was larger than some space stations. Its hull bristled with weapon systems that defied coalition understanding. Behind the fleet, human shipyards worked continuously. New vessels launched every day. The Empire was preparing for something big. If you refuse, Admiral Chen said, the 7th Battle Group will arrive at coalition space within 72 hours. They will establish a blockade around every major trade hub in your territory. Your economy will collapse within weeks instead of months. Your member species will turn against each other as resources become scarce. The coalition will destroy itself without us firing a single additional shot. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Everyone understood what it meant. The humans were not bluffing. They had the capability to do exactly what they described. More importantly, they had the will to do it. Other species might hesitate to cause such widespread destruction. Humans would not. Vexus looked around the chamber. He saw fear on the faces of his allies. He saw calculation on others. Some species were already considering switching sides. The coalition had been held together by strength for 6,000 years. Now, that strength was being challenged by creatures who had barely discovered fire by galactic standards. "We need time to discuss these matters," Vexus said finally. His voice had lost its authority. He sounded tired and defeated. "The Council will reconvene in 3 days to vote on your proposals." Theron nodded respectfully. 3 days is acceptable. We appreciate the Chancellor's wisdom in seeking consultation rather than conflict. He turned and walked back toward the chamber doors. His delegation followed in perfect formation. Before leaving, he paused and looked back at the assembled representatives. "One more thing," he said. "When you discuss these matters among yourselves, remember something important. Humans do not make threats. We make promises. Every word I have spoken today is a promise. Treat us fairly, and we will be your greatest allies. Threaten our people, and we will be your final enemy. The choice belongs to the coalition." The doors closed behind the human delegation. The chamber remained silent for a long time. Finally, the Volcari ambassador spoke. His voice shook with barely contained emotion. "They are monsters," he said. "We should have destroyed them when we had the chance." An elderly representative from the Narathi species shook his head slowly. His scales rattled with what might have been amusement. "They are not monsters," he said. "They are survivors. Every generation of humans has faced extinction, war, disease, climate collapse, nuclear weapons. They survived all of it. Now they face the galaxy with the same determination. We were fools to think Sanctions would frighten creatures who have already stared into the abyss." 3 days later, the Coalition Council voted unanimously to accept the human proposals. Trade agreements were signed. Territory disputes were settled peacefully. The human empire became an equal partner in galactic affairs. Some species resented this outcome. They whispered about revenge in dark corners of the galaxy. They plotted future conflicts. They refused to accept that the balance of power had shifted permanently. Others recognized the truth. Humanity had not conquered the coalition through violence. They had demonstrated something far more effective. They had shown that they could not be intimidated. They had proven that aggression against their people would cost more than any potential benefit. Most importantly, they had offered friendship to those willing to accept it. The galaxy had changed forever in that council chamber. A young species had faced the combined might of ancient civilizations. They had not flinched. They had not begged for mercy. They had simply stated their terms and waited for the universe to respond. This was the human way. Diplomacy first, always. Negotiation and compromise whenever possible. But behind every handshake stood the Imperial fleet. Behind every treaty waited plasma weapons that could reshape continents. Humans had learned long ago that peace required strength. Now the galaxy was learning the same lesson. Ambassador Theron returned to Earth as a hero. Admiral Chun received another medal for her service. The soldiers who had stood guard in the chamber went back to their regular duties. None of them considered their actions remarkable. They have simply done what humans always did when facing impossible odds. They had refused to surrender. They had refused to compromise their dignity. They had stood firm until the threat passed or the enemy fell. In the end, the coalition had threatened Sanctions. The Imperial fleet had threatened plasma. Only one of those threats carried weight in the cold darkness between stars.